Okay, Welsh Cawl, Cawl Cymraeg. Before we start, I'm not Welsh speaking. I'm 1/4 Welsh by my heritage. On my mother's side, my mother was half Welsh. And another thing we need to clear up is what cawl is and what cawl is not. What cawl is not is a fixed recipe. What it is, it's making the best use of what was seasonally available at the time and turning it into a nutritious one-pot meal. So, the sort of things that were available to the people when cawl was made were things like lamb, and they'd usually use the cheaper cuts like scrag end of neck of lamb, or lamb shank. And it wasn't just limited to lamb, it would be any meat they had available at the time. Most people kept a pig, so occasionally it would be pork meat. And even today in parts of Wales they'll make cawl out of fish as well, so there are no strict limits to what it is. However, the modern idea of cawl is kind of fixed around a stew of lamb and vegetables. And it's also perhaps my favourite of all the recipes for this sumptuous, delicious one-pot Welsh meal. Right, so I've got an array of rather nice vegetables in front of me, and what I've got is some swede, or you may know that as rutabaga. I've got some nice potatoes. These are Welsh shallots, they're new potatoes, they're in season now. So I'm going to use them. However, you can use any kind of potatoes you can get your hands on. And I'm using an onion, which I'll show you in a minute. And I'm using half a head of white cabbage, so I'll be using half of that. I've got some leeks, because I don't think you can call it Welsh if it's not got leeks in it. And I've got some carrots, because carrots impart such a fine flavour to any kind of soup or stew. And I've also got some thyme, which you can see there. So that's dried thyme. You can also use fresh thyme. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to turn this into that. So as you see, I've got the cabbage and the leeks all cut up in there, and they're all cut up into fairly big pieces. Same with the swede. Same with the carrots, and same with my potatoes. I didn't use all the potatoes, and I only used half of the swede. Likewise with the onion, I've used the whole onion, and the meat is cut up into large pieces, if you think they're quite large. Alright, now, the traditional recipe for cawl would call for the meat to first be boiled, but in a separation from tradition, I can't force myself to do that, because this is beautiful Welsh leg of lamb, and I'm going to do it in the classical French way to start with, and fry off the lamb with a bit of onion to get a colour on it, and to make it attractive and inject more flavour into the cawl. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the heat, and we'll bring my big cast iron pot up to heat, and then we'll crack on. Okay, what you missed there was I brought the pan up to the heat, and I had to fry off the lamb with some onion just to brown it off. That's not necessarily traditional to do so, but I find it gives a much better flavour in the finished cawl. I've also thrown in the lamb bone, the leg bone, to create a delicious stock. So that is now going to come up to the boil, and it's going to boil. It's going to come up to the boil, and then I'm going to simmer it for about 20 to 25 minutes before adding the vegetables. Okay, well that's coming up to a boil. Let's talk about Dominique. I did this as a challenge by Dominique from Dominique's Kitchen, and I don't know if any of you are subscribed to Dominique, but if you're not, make sure you get across there and subscribe, because she's great. She's got some magic recipes. She doesn't waste time telling you about them, and you know, she does fairly short videos packed with loads of information, and technically she's fantastic. So she does some really good stuff. So make sure you get over to her channel. There'll be a link above and at the end of the video, and check her out. What's happening here is as this comes to the boil, it's starting to scum up a bit, so I'm just gonna skim off some of that scum. Don't like it. It's not gonna hurt you, but it adds a slight bitterness to the stock, so we don't really want that. So I'll give that a stir in, and I'll be skimming that as it comes to the surface, and I'll come back once we're ready to add the vegetables. Alright, that's just coming up to a boil, so I'm going to turn it down now to a simmer. Alright, just while it's simmering, I'm just going to add in a pinch, maybe what, half a teaspoon of dried thyme. I don't want to go too mad on the thyme, because I don't want this to be overly herbal in flavour. It's more of a meaty and sweet sort of vegetable stew. So I'll stir that in. Oh, it's a nice smell. Alright, that's about 20 minutes, and I'm just going to give it a quick stir. And first thing I'm going to add is the leeks and the cabbage, and they cook down and give a really nice texture to this dish. So in go the leeks and the cabbage, and that will now, I'll turn the heat back up and bring that all back up to heat and relax the cabbage a little bit. And on top of that, we don't need to add any more water because that should sink down. I'm going to add the swede or the rutabaga and the carrots on top of that. And the very last thing we add is the potatoes, but we don't add them till about 20 minutes before we serve it. Alright, once it's coming up to the boil, we do a little taste test. And adjust for salt. Add some pepper, much as you like. I like a lot. Now the vegetables are going to simmer for 40 minutes, but at the 20-minute stage I want to add the potatoes. So I'm going to cover that now and cook it for 20 minutes, and then come back and add the potatoes. Okay, 20 minutes in. Now I'm just going to lift that up. Now it's bubbling away nicely. Time to add my potatoes. The lid goes back on that for another 20 minutes. Alright, 20-minute point. That's cooked away nicely. Potatoes are starting to split. Everything's looking good. So what I'm going to do now is have another quick taste of it. Sorry about the steam. Oh, that's just good. I'm going to put a little bit more salt in there. Just a little. And then I'm going to switch it off and cover it and leave it till tomorrow. Alright, good morning. It's the next morning. I'm anxious to see what's happening here. Let's have a look. Okay, you'll see some of the water, some of the stock has been absorbed by the vegetables, and it's in a cold state, exactly where we wanted it to be. I think what I'm going to do is top that up with a bit of water, and I'm using boiled water. because it won't hurt to have a bit more stock. And let's get it up to heat. So I'm going to bring it up to heat quite gently, so I'm going to turn it down a couple of notches, and then I'll get back to you once that's warmed up. Alright, just a bit more about cawl. Cawl is more a dish of Central and South Wales than it is of North Wales. Up in North Wales we have a different kind of soup we call lopscouse. I don't have a recipe for that at the moment, but I might be able to bring you one sometime in the future. Cawl doesn't need to be thickened. Quite often it's just served as a broth. Traditionally it was served as a separate broth, and then the meat and vegetables were served. And nearly always where it's served now, it will be served with a chunk of Welsh cheese and some crusty bread, as you see here. This is just going up to heat now, so a couple of more minutes and we'll lift the lid and see what we got. Alright, time has come to do the reveal. Turn the heat off and let's have a look at this little baby. That's perfect. Wonderful, everything's up to heat. Let's stir up some of that meat from the bottom. Lovely. And let's serve it up. Some more of that broth. So there we have it, boys and girls. I've served it here with a mild Welsh cheese and some crusty rye bread, and I'm going to tuck into that right now. So just before I make a pig of myself on this sumptuous cawl, I'd like to say thank you again for Dominique's challenge, and I'll throw the challenge right back at Dominique and ask her to make one just the same or similar. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to follow my channel, please subscribe and be sure to click the bell icon to receive notification of all my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.